The Word on Wealth Radio Network.
The airing of this station is not an endorsement or recommendation by the station of the products or services discussed in the program. The station does not guarantee the results of any investments made by a listener to this program.
This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, here's Gary.
Happy Monday. So good to get the week off to a start talking about Medicare things, Medicare issues. You know, we are in the annual enrollment period, the AEP. What does that mean? I only know what it means because I get Jim Robeson's newsletter that he mails out. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can get a mailed out newsletter from Jim Robeson. He is the Medicare answer guy. And the way to get his newsletter, do like I did, go to the MedicareAnswerGuy.com and you can subscribe to the newsletter. And it's like a front and back page. It's actually super helpful. If you're on Medicare, if you're coming up on 65, get it so that at least you can have some of the understanding of all these abbreviations and all these, and there's a lot of changes with Medicare. That's why we've got Jim with us every week here on The Word on Wealth, and he is our expert. Jim, welcome to The Word on Wealth.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gary Quackenbush. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I am doing really well. I did get your newsletter. Thank you very much. And it does help me understand the terminology a lot better because we talk about it on the air and there's all these different periods of enrollment and things going on now. But I think today, what I would really like to figure out is the 2024 Medicare prescription complexities, because that's where it starts to kind of gets weird for me. It's like you have Scripps Coastal who is saying, okay, we're going to dump 40,000 people this year starting January 1st. Good luck with that. And here are your three options, which are not that good, except for the ones that you described. And then there's something with prescriptions and all that. So here is our time. We have about, we have our time together for you to help all of us and our listeners understand all about the Medicare issues. So do you want to start with the prescription complexities, or you want to talk about the AEP right now? What's the easiest way to go here?
Well, let's just say that we are 3 weeks away from having the open enrollment AEP conclude, which means if you're one of the 32,000 people that are losing your Scripps Clinic or Scripps Coastal doctor and you haven't done anything, then you're automatically, your insurance company is going to change your doctor. So you need to either call your insurance company, call your broker, or get in touch with me. 3 weeks to make this happen. But what I would like to mention today, which is even more complex than Medicare Advantage plans, is the prescription drug plan. And I would say more than half of the calls that I get are people who really don't understand it, and it is pretty complex. So if you're our listeners, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's good. So that if we can work on that today, I would be super happy. In fact, Jim, I'm going to open lines. If you guys, if you're listening up and you have a question for Jim, it's 888-344-1170. You can be part. So, okay, you're on a roll, Jim. Keep going.
So if you have a Medicare Advantage plan or you have a standalone drug plan, which means you also probably have a Medicare supplement plan, sometime in September, you got what's called an annual notice of change letter from your insurance company. And so let's just focus on, for the next few minutes, the standalone drug plan. You should have gotten a letter from your insurance company, and in that letter, they're going to tell you if there are any changes to your prescription drug plan. And I can tell you I have over 300 clients who have these standalone drug plans. And unfortunately, as best as I try to tell them to read the letter, most of them don't. But in that letter, you're going to see that your prescription drug plan's premiums for 2024 are going up by 50 to 100 to almost 200%.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
And and the deductible is going up, and your copays and your coinsurance is going up. All of that is in your annual notice of change. And if you don't read it, January 1st is going to come along, and all of a sudden you're going to look at your bank statement, if you look at it, and you're going to see, well, gosh, I used to be paying $30. Why am I paying $60? Did somebody make a mistake? No, nobody made a mistake. Congress, in the Inflation Reduction Act, awarded the insurance companies with paying 100% of your copays if you happen to be on a standalone drug plan or a Medicare Advantage plan with prescription drug coverage. Right now,
2 minutes.
you're in the catastrophic stage, which means you're on some pretty high, powerful drugs. In 2024, the insurance companies have to pay this. You don't have to pay anything. Good for you. Well, guess what? The insurance companies are not going to pay this. They're going to raise, they are raising your premiums. They are raising the deductible. They're moving the drugs around in different tiers. Your copays are going up and your coinsurance is going up. Just at the time, now this is not inflation reduction, this is inflation. And I'm here to tell you, it's really a crisis. And it's really putting some people, many people, over the top because they really, really need these meds. And there is a solution. And
1 minute.
disclaimer here, I no longer help sell these prescription drug plans. And I'll tell you why in the next segment.
All right, you're listening to The Word on Wealth. This is Jim Robeson, the Medicare Answer Guy, and me, Gary Quackenbush. We're going to be going right to the bottom of the hour with Jim Robeson here, answering your questions about Medicare. You got to listen up on this because everybody is affected by Medicare. If you're coming up on 65 or anybody in your family is, you got to know this stuff. Listen up right here on The Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com. Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
So, Gary, we've talked a long time about estate administration. So what is that? And why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee. that's named in the trust. So have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecos and the Pecos Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecos has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecos Group, from single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings. Ken Pecos is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecos.com. That's Ken Pecos, Pecus.com, or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
All right. We got Jim Robeson, the Medicare answer guy. The easiest way to get a hold of him. It's what I remember every time somebody calls and says, Gary, I heard you on the radio with Jim Robeson, and I like what he's saying, and he's going to help me understand this. How do I get a hold of him? I usually say themedicareanswerguy.com. That's his website, and you can go on the contact link, and it lets you set up an appointment with him so you can get on his scheduled calendar so he can talk to you about your situation. And he's got a lot going on there. This is a really busy time. We got the annual enrollment period ending, and we got the open enrollment. So we got a lot going on with Medicare. I know. So Jim isn't surfing a lot. Lately, he's working his rear end off. But get on his calendar because he is committed to help our listeners and help a lot of people. And he really does. Jim has helped my family. That's why I appreciate having him as a partner on the show. All right, man. Go for it. Let's keep. It's really upsetting that, you've been saying this whole time, it's like, we have the Medicare Advantage plan. It sounds so great. It's an advantage and there's no premiums and there's blah, 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 all this stuff. But then we all of a sudden start to see that Congress goes, well, you're sure there's an advantage, but we're going to change the rules and we're going to start increasing things and increasing costs and increasing expense because they're trying to cover it. It's just like, I was talking to a guy, I know this is funny, but San Diego Gas and Electric, I was talking to you, they're digging up like our road. We have a piece of property in Julian, and they had to dig up our road to put in an underground cable so that they don't have to have cables, running through the trees in case they light on fire. And I said, wow, how is San Diego Gas and Electric, how are they affording all this? And he goes, they're not paying for a thing. I go, what? And he goes, you are, Gary. Haven't you seen your electric bill lately? I went, oh my gosh, of course we did. And the thing is with like the advantage plans, it's like, oh, nobody's going to pay for this. Baloney. We're paying for it. So let's talk about
Or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. So let's talk about like what we can do. And I want you to, we've only got like 10 minutes or so, but I want to give that all to you to explain to our listeners what to do about this.
All right. So let me clarify what I mentioned before. I don't sell standalone drug plans. I do help my clients and people who call. I show them how to go on Medicare.gov and search for their own drug plan. It's really important that they do this. So I'm not dropping the ball. And by the way, Medicare Advantage plans do have an advantage over standalone drug plans in this way. They don't have a premium and they don't have deductibles, and their copays and coinsurance are much better than the standalone drug plans for 2024. So if our listeners are on a MedSup plan or on Original Medicare plus a standalone drug plan with a host of insurance companies, what I'm recommending, and I'll put on my website, are instructions on how to use Medicare.gov to search your own drug plan. So I'll use me as an example. So I took my red, white, and blue card. I registered that card on Medicare.gov. I created a username and a password, and now I can go to Medicare.gov, look at my standalone drug plan with Cigna, my Medicare supplement plan with United Healthcare, and I can see all the claims that come into Medicare, what they charge, and what they pay. So if you have a standalone drug plan, that's what you should do. So I went in, I saw my Cigna standalone drug plan, and I went to the search bar and I saw all the competitive plans for 2024. And now I can compare in the privacy of my home my drug plan with WellCare, with Aetna, with Cigna, with all the other insurance companies right there. And if I feel that there's a better deal than what I have, I can either click enroll in that new drug plan right online, or I can call the non-member 800 number and they'll enroll me right there. That's how easy it is. There's like 9 steps to do this. And I can tell you right now, even with my own clients, and I'm emailing them and I'm telling them that it's pretty crazy. What they're paying now, maybe with an Aetna plan for $30 is going to $60. Other plans that are paying $40 are going to $70 and $80. And there are other plans lower than that that they can enroll in to save lots and lots of money. And by the way, Gary, I'm talking to people who have been on a drug plan for 10 years and have never done this. And they're paying over $120 a month, and they're on a blood pressure, a generic tier 1 drug. They should never be paying that kind of money.
Wow.
So you got to do your homework. You got to read your annual notice of change. And I'll put the instructions on my website, and it'll be very easy. And I think you will save a lot of money. You'll save money on premium, and you could save money on copays.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple, except when you explain it, it's complicated, but the way you explain it, it's simple. Okay. And that's going to be part of what, when you contact Jim, the Medicare answer guy, he can help you through this, walk you through it. So when we are talking about now to the standalone drug plan, if you have Medicare not Advantage, but if you have your other, like the permanent insurance plans, that's what we're talking about, right? You have the standalone drug plans that go along with them.
Right. You have a MedSup plan or a Medigap plan and a standalone drug plan.
Okay. And then we've been recommending those like for, well, especially since what happened with Scripps Coastal and everything, because those plans are permanent and you can have. So what you do then is if you have your if you have your supplement plan, and then you're going to have a standalone drug plan to go with it, that's the thing you should be shopping and looking at instead of just kind of sitting there and waiting for the premiums or letting the premiums go up, is read your notices. I think it's interesting how you're saying at the beginning, it's like, read your letter, but I think a lot of people go, oh, okay, that's Medicare stuff. I don't need to read it. Everything's automatic. But you're saying read it and read the change, figure it out, and let's fix it.
So here's the deal. If you don't change your drug plan by December 7th, you have to wait until next year.
Oh.
You can't change it January through next October. So if your premium goes from 30 to 60, you're stuck. You're going to pay an extra, what is that, $360 a year more. And you probably, I'll just tell you, if our listeners do this, WellCare has a standalone drug plan for 40 cents a month.
Oh my gosh.
And they're a strong company. 40 cents a month. Now, why are they doing that? I think they're buying the business, which they probably are. And so, but $4.80 a year for a pretty good drug plan. And they got pretty much all the pharmacies that's preferred. So if you're paying 60, 70 and you're tier 1, 2, maybe a tier 3 brand drug, you ought to look at the WellCare for 40 cents and save a ton of money. And by the way, if you have an agent and your agent hasn't called you, I'd call your agent and say, hey, what's with my drug plan? He's getting paid a commission. She's getting paid a commission.
I think I would
Just
call
so
you
know.
instead. I think I would just call Jim. That's
Yeah.
what I would do. That's what I'm recommending to you guys. If you don't have an agent, if you do, whatever, I think Jim's probably the guy you should be talking to because he knows what he's doing and he's fair and he's honest. The MedicareAnswerGuy.com. If you really like the phone, you can call him 858-935-9120. Okay.
So I'll put these instructions on my website.
Okay.
It'll probably take a couple of days to get it up there, but it's fairly simple. It's going to save you a lot of money, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that as well.
Now, Jim, because we're right now in the enrollment period, if I want to change from an Advantage plan to a supplement plan, or if I have a supplement plan and I want to change, that's all the stuff that I can do now, right? I can switch plans. I can go from an Advantage plan to a supplement plan, right?
Right, except the clock's ticking, and if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, you've lost your Scripps client. There's one insurance company that won't ask any health questions. That's Blue Shield. But you've got to enroll. You've got to move away from a Medicare Advantage plan and enroll in a standalone drug plan now, which will cancel your Advantage plan, and then we can enroll you in the sub plan. Do not wait any longer, or you'll miss this opportunity. But if you're going to stay in the Medicare Advantage world, you can do that. You can make those changes all the way up to December 7th.
That's not
I'm
very long.
finding a lot of people who are on a Medicare Advantage plan have never heard of a Medicare supplement permanent plan.
2 minutes.
I'm getting a lot of phone calls from that. So if that's you and that's something you're interested in, we need to get on this right away.
Easiest way is to get online and get set up with an appointment in you online. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. So that's the easiest
But do
way.
it right away, because
Do it now.
we got Thanksgiving and Christmas and holidays and people going on vacations.
Okay.
This
So
is important.
this is super important because you're gonna get stuck the rest of the year. I mean, I'm always frustrated with if I hire a professional and it's like there are certain things that I know they should be telling me and they just don't. I'm ignorant. I'd rather be educated. I'd rather have somebody like Jim that's really good about getting to us. His newsletter is great. It helps you understand all the little things that are going on, and it's saving $100 here, $100 there, and it adds up. It's real money. The MedicareAnswerGuy.com. Yeah. And especially when there are options, and it's like, you got to have
21
these things
minutes.
checked out by Jim Robeson so that you know where you are and you're getting the best deal. When you're receiving Medicare, a lot of times your income doesn't change. It goes up and down with the market, and you got to count those pennies and get just as good of service or even better. but got to go to Jim Robeson, the MedicareAnswerGuy.com. Jim, good luck, man. I know you got a busy schedule and you got a lot of people going on. I really appreciate you taking the calls and the appointments from our listeners. And good luck to you, man. Hang in there. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Have a great week.
All right. You as well. All right. That's Jim Robeson, the MedicareAnswerGuy.com. Get his newsletter. If nothing else, I don't care if you're 65 and on Medicare or receiving or going to or whatever. Get the newsletter. That way you can be educated. This is going to affect you eventually, and it's going to affect your family probably already. So if you want to be informed, get his newsletter, themedicareanswerguy.com. We'll be right back.
Questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. And you're here to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
Today's economic conditions and high inflation made it difficult for you in retirement. Hi, I'm Shane.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST. Or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
All right. Ever thought, try to figure out how you can help your parents as they get older, like me, what do you do to help your parents? A lot of us just kind of like go, ooh, parents are getting older, but I'm just going to ignore that. And hopefully they have everything in order or their estate plan. And let's not do anything about it. Here's the thing. I deal every day with people that have estate plans and people that don't have estate plans. I deal with I say the front end and the back end of estate planning. The front end being setting up your estate plan, getting it all together, the wills and trusts and power of attorneys and all those really cool things that help the end. The end game is once you pass away or if you become incapacitated. Either way, those are two conditions that come up in everyone's life, most everybody. The death thing for sure, 100%. The incapacity thing, about 70% of us become incapacitated first. And that is part of the end game. And that's what your estate plan is supposed to help work with. That if you became incapacitated, there isn't this panic on the part of your family members to say, oh my gosh, the doctor needs a power of attorney. The doctor needs a decision made. The bank wants this to go on. Something's happening. There's a required minimum distribution. If you don't have your estate plan and stuff like that set up, it's terrible for those of us who are still here taking care of your stuff. And I mean, here, if you're incapacitated here after you passed away, it really is important to make sure you have everything in order. And I know facing death and disability is not a fun thing. It's just reality. And I have, over so many years doing this, I've just seen so many times firsthand and had people testify and tell me how much better it is to have an estate plan in order. And whether it's super simple or really complicated, it doesn't matter. There is something in order. What the basic idea of the estate plan is, you are leaving to your survivors instructions on what to do with your stuff. If you're incapacitated, there are instructions on what to do with your stuff. And that is, do whatever you need to do basically to keep me going and pay for medicals and pay the bills and don't let the house get foreclosed, that type of thing. And once you're passed away, the instructions are, pay for final arrangements, pay the creditors, pay whatever, make distributions after you've paid the professionals and taken care of business. Remember, you got the IRS and the state of California and the property taxes and all these things. The more organized you are, the better it is. What you don't want, and this, I don't want to be super negative about it, but what you really don't want is to add to the mess of your death. I mean, just to put it super black and white and super blunt. Okay. You don't want to add to the mess. When people pass away, it's messy. I don't care how well prepared you are. It's messy because it's difficult, because we lost a loved one, someone that we care about. And it would be great if we didn't have to deal with any mess. It's just person passes away, everything is super organized, funeral plan is there, burial plot has been reserved and taken care of and all set up ahead of time. The instructions for what you want for your memorial service, do you want one or not? Do you want it big or little? If all that's laid out, I've seen people do that and it's cool. Almost nobody does that. As far as all the super details, they kind of leave it up to the family. Nah, just do something simple, please. I don't want a big fuss. Cool. We do that. But when it's dealing with the material stuff here, the taxes and the changes in ownership and the dealing with the banks and institutions and all that, that's not easy to do. And the more organized you are, the more straightforward the process becomes. So when you pass away, if you have a trust that says what you want it to do and it's done right, and you've assigned people to be your helpers, your post-mortem helpers, your successor trustee, your financial power of attorney, your executor of your will, if those things are organized and you have people that are kind of primed to do it, I don't mean that they have to know everything about your estate. You don't have to, have meetings with them every month for the next 20 years, but just to have it organized so that somebody can get out your trust binder. I call it the everything book. In fact, sometimes if I get really excited about it, I'll offer everything books to everybody that gets an estate plan. if you hear this and you think, I'm going to get an estate plan, it's time. When you call in to get your appointment, just mention that that I said that you can have an everything book. I've got a couple of them left. It's basically a binder where it's not just my regular blue binders, this big red binder with a zipper on it. And it's not just for your estate plan. It's your quote everything book, which is like, if your house catches on fire, you grab the everything book and your 72-hour kit, chuck it in the car and drive away, and take your dog and children as well, and cats. So, but I can do that. So if you hear this and you think, okay, I'm going to do it today, call up and say, I want to get an estate plan with Gary. And he said I could have an everything book for free. And I will throw that in as part of the package deal that when we quote you a fee on the estate plan. Okay. What I mean by the everything book is it's everything that's organized. So what you do is you have your will and your trust and your power of attorney and your healthcare power of attorney and your documents that moved your bank account into the trust and all that. And then part of the book, so that's all your estate plan stuff that's together. I'll review that again. And then towards the back of the book, you just have other tabs, and it might be like a little slip cover, or it might be, something where it's on the 3-ring binder or whatever. But every time you open a bank account, you get a new bank account, put it in the trust, and then take one of those bank statements. Maybe you don't want your first one in there because you think, oh, the first one, you're going to put it in a file folder in your desk. But make sure that one of the bank statements of each of your bank accounts is tucked in that everything binder. Because even if it's a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years out of date, it'll have, I know this is the easy way to do it. I'm not going to say lazy, but it's just, that's the best I'm doing. I don't want to put a schedule together on an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe I will someday, but you put in a copy of a bank statement of each bank statement that you have. You just put one in there. Just stick it all in there. You don't have to have like 75, you don't have to do every month for every year. You just want to make sure that your successor trustee, if you're incapacitated or when you die, they can at least see where your stuff is. They'll go, oh, yeah, Union Bank with this bank account number. And you got this credit union that has the summary sheet with all the 4 accounts there. And you have your investment accounts here. And you leave that information in your everything book. And also the idea of the everything book is that you also put in, like, as soon as let's say you pay your premium for your home insurance, I would stick something like that in there, home insurance. And you can get kind of overkill on it, but your home insurance, your car insurance, the umbrella policy for your home that everybody should have, those are things. So there's all this information so that when you do pass away, your successor trustee can get that and see how organized it is. And at least it'll be a start. I think most of us expect when somebody passes away, it's like, well, they passed away, so there's no more utilities for them. There's no more, taxes, whatever. You guys, all that stuff keeps going. The yard still needs to be taken care of. Their insurances still need to be paid. There's different things that have to be done that continue on after someone passes away. And the idea of an estate plan is to get it so that it's organized enough where it's not going to be an add to the mess of your death. And when you aren't very organized, I was talking to a guy in the last couple of days, and he said, I know my mom's hope is that when she passes away, that her kids are going to get along. And he said, but I'm afraid that she is so disorganized that when she passes away, and one of us is the successor trustee, we're not going to like each other anymore because there aren't instructions on what to do. And it wasn't very definite, and it doesn't seem fair. So if the concern of the parent, you and me, is that we want our kids to get along, then try to make it as little of a mess as possible. And that way, the more that's arranged ahead of time, the less there is to argue about, because it's organized and it's going to go on. This gets divided 3 ways. Everything gets divided 3 ways. This gets paid. So get organized. That's all I can say. If you do it, just remember, if you're listening to this show, say, Gary told me I got a free everything book, because I got a couple of them left. And I will throw that in as part of our package deal of doing a complete estate plan for you. 855-500-TRUST is the number to call, 855-500-TRUST. I'd be happy to be your estate planning attorney. We're good at it, done it a lot of times. And I help people sort through making it so there's less mess when you pass away and dealing with the details that need to be dealt with after you pass away. So we do both sides. That's why I'm saying we do the front end of the estate planning and the back end of the estate planning. We're happy to do that for you. You're listening to The Word on Wealth. If you've got questions for me on air, I will give you a chance right to the top of the hour. We've got lines open. The number is 888-344-1170, 888-344-1170. You can call and be part of The Word on Wealth right here on this show. And to keep you informed, tomorrow we have got Shane Sletter, who's our reverse mortgage guy. Fantastic job explaining how reverse mortgages work and how the stuff he's doing with reverse mortgages, I think, to me, it's really incredible. And I love having him on. He's on tomorrow. We got a real estate guy, Ken Pecos, on Wednesday, and Anthony, our financial guy, on Thursday. All right, you're listening to The Word on Wealth, and we'll be back in just a minute right here on Word on Wealth.
Don't need to know a person. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build.
You got to kill the music when the commercial runs.
Estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at quackenbush.com.
Got it. Thank you.
Because I can't hear anything but the music right now. I can't hear the commercial or the bumpers or anything.
Is a process that involves attorneys, judges.
So you're not hearing the spot?
I can barely hear him because the music's so loud. But usually what you have to, and I know Todd told me that the music runs until you turn it off. It isn't like set for a certain period of time or something. Oops.
That's
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST, gqlaw.com.
Okay, so we are talking about helping parents out and trying to figure out how to get organized and help them get organized. And if you're the parent, we can help you get organized. If you're the child, you can help your parents get organized. And the way this works is to do an estate plan, you've got to find somebody that you trust, because how do you know that your estate plan is done right? Well, you have a professional look at it and the professional says thumbs up or thumbs down, or let's make an adjustment. Okay. You will never know whether it's working properly, because your estate plan technically will be in place doing its thing when you are incapacitated or after you passed away. So that's why it's a little tricky to know whether you've done it right. And I know, sometimes the sentiment is, well, I won't be here, it won't matter. If I did it wrong, if I did it myself, I did it online, I saved a few bucks, but it won't really matter. And I get that, because we're all trying to save money and make everything less expensive and thinking we can do everything ourselves. And that's, I do a lot of do-it-yourself stuff too, I would admit. Legal stuff, I don't do it myself. I hire tax professionals, I hire attorneys, I hire professionals to invest my money for me because I don't know what to do. And I know picking a financial advisor is stinking hard. Finding an attorney that you like is really hard because there's so many financial planners, there's so many accountants and tax professionals, there are so many attorneys. How do you choose somebody that you like? We just got to find somebody, do the best you can, and you got to get somebody that you like, somebody that you trust. And it's not like hope for the best. Do your research, I think, and find somebody that you really care, that you think looks out for your best interest. So when you're helping your parents, what I've done before is sometimes, if your parents just doesn't want to go do their estate plan, they just think it won't matter, everything's going to you. You guys can just relax. Don't worry, you're taken care of. Everything's fine. If that's all your parents are going to give you, then there's nothing you can do. It's their stuff. They can do whatever they want with it as far as an estate plan, distributions, disbursements, and stuff. I had a gal in here several months ago, probably about 6 or 7 months ago. And she came in, she wanted to get her estate plan done. She had some younger children, several that were under the age of 18. And she wanted to get an estate plan, wasn't sure to choose. So she brought her dad in and asked him to be a second set of eyes and ears so that he could be in on the interview with me to see whether I would be the attorney for her. And so we were going through asking her, I asked a lot of questions about, do you have a retirement account? Do you have life insurance? Do you have bank accounts? Approximately how much is in them? What do you think your house is worth? Do you owe money on it? How many cars do you have? Go through that process to figure out basically what you have. And then I'm going to make suggestions based on how many children you have, what your desires are as far as after you pass away, who gets your stuff. And in the meantime, what's going to go on. And then I'm going to make some suggestions on how to set up an estate plan that will work for you. And I'll give you your different options. Well, going through that process, her dad was starting to ask more questions. Well, what about this? And how does this work? And all that. So he ended up liking me and he hired me to do an estate plan as well. So before he left, I gave him a worksheet to fill out so that he and his wife could put together their initial information page for me. And we set up an estate plan for him and for his daughter and husband and their kids. And I thought that was really super cool because the dad really didn't really have any interest in doing it. He thought everything was okay because he had beneficiary on his life insurance. He had his house. He knew that when he passed away, it would go to his wife. If his wife passed away, it'd go to him and that his kids would inherit. And that's all true, but it ends up going through probate and it ends up being disorganized. And if you want to leave a mess, and I know nobody does, if you don't set up your estate plan right, then it goes through probate. And probate is slow, expensive, and it adds to the mess. And sure, it works. We do a lot of probate because people have estate plans that are not set up right or they're not set up at all. And the probate court gets involved to help determine who gets the property and who's in charge of the property and how much the person that's in charge should be getting paid. All that stuff is, it gets resolved in probate court. So it's not a bad thing. It's just really expensive and slow and avoidable. So instead of spending a couple $1,000s to get your estate distributed and all taken care of after you pass away, if it goes through probate court, the same situation that may have cost a couple $1,000s in attorney's fees will now cost, $15,000 to $20,000 in attorney's fees, just because it's so much more expensive. And there are trustee fees and court fees. There's a lot of other expenses that you can totally avoid with a living trust. Plus, with a living trust, you get a lot of control and you get basically there's no, it's private, it's confidential. There's no public record of it. There's no, the trust is never, recorded with a court or anything like that, unless there's a problem. But with a regular trust, it goes through really with, just kind of the normal procedure. It remains a private thing. Other members of the family who are listed or certain heirs get to find out and get to know about the trust, depending on how it's put together. But it's not something that goes out to be public record like a will. If you have a will and it explains who's getting what and all that stuff, that's actually becomes a court filed document, which is technically a public record, but your trust doesn't get filed. So it keeps it more private, which I really like that part of it, because when I die, I want my stuff to be private. I don't really want it out in the public. I don't want people to know what my kids are inheriting or are not inheriting or anything like that. I want it to be kept private, away from the public, away from my kids' creditors, all that information I would just rather have kept private. And I can do that with a trust. I cannot get that accomplished if I have no trust, or if I have even a will. I will not get that accomplished. So when you are putting together your estate plan, don't shortcut it. Make sure you have a trust that determines who is in charge of your property and how they're going to spend it. The trust indicates how it's going to be spent. The trustee, while you are alive and well, takes care of you, and you are that trustee. If you are incapacitated, then your trustee takes care of you. If you are dead, then your trustee takes care of your beneficiaries. And that beneficiary or the trustee can make the distributions according to the terms of your trust, which means if you have children that are under a certain age, like let's say they are under 30 or under 35, and you don't want them to have all of your money until they're 35 years old, the trust can do that. If you have a child that is receiving like Social Security or government assistance, and you want them to inherit your money, but you know that if they do, they're going to lose all of their government benefits, and all of a sudden medical is going to become really expensive and it's going to be a total waste of money. You can do a type of trust that will protect that special needs beneficiary, that person, from losing all those benefits, and that is a special needs trust. And there's multiple ways to do them. There's not just one cookie cutter way, but there's multiple ways to do it. Special needs trust, we're seeing a lot of those because sometimes you have a beneficiary that cannot manage any money at all. Talked to a gal a couple of weeks ago, and her thing was one of her kids was fine. I mean, they could have a job, kind of a mellow job, and they can drive, and they're responsible as far as that goes. But any money that he got besides his regular paycheck was just instantaneously gone. And so mom wanted to set up a trust that says, well, I really want this available. If I die and my son is not retirement age yet, I don't want him to just like blow it all, and then by the time he's retirement age have zero again and live like a pauper. So instead she set it up so that the trust carried out that money and was invested in everything properly, so that it would be a retirement account for her son rather than a fund money or a play money account. And I thought that was pretty cool. So there's a lot of things you can do with the trust. You can control the money for a long time. And that's what you want to make sure that the needs are met, not just, plain vanilla. Okay, this is a trust like everybody else has. You want to make sure your trust does what you want it to do. I think that's the most important part. Now, when you are talking to your parents about what estates they have, just remember, you don't like at Thanksgiving say, okay, we have an appointment with mom and we're going to all sit down. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Mom, how much is in your bank account? Is your house in a trust? I mean, don't do that. That just annoys people. Instead, spend lots of time with your parents. And as time goes on, ask them questions here and there. Talk about your own estate plan. Ask them if they have any questions about it, or, get some questions answered to theirs, so that you can kind of build that level of trust where they're going to say, yeah, here's what's going on. And, especially as they get older, and that they're going to need that kind of attention within the next several years. And who knows, good luck predicting that. But at least you're building that rapport. And it's not because you want to spend their money or take their money or have their money. It's because you want them to be happy and you want them to be taken care of, because if they're incapacitated, they can't handle their money. They just, period. They can't. So then you have to get a conservatorship to try to be able to handle their money for them, to take care of them. And if it gets to that point, conservatorships are nightmares. Okay. Really difficult nightmares. And you want to avoid that. And it can be avoided if you set up a living trust that explains who's going to be the one handling your money if you're incapacitated, or handling your money after you passed away. That's the whole purpose of an estate plan. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we're trying to make it so that you're not adding to the mess of your death. Death is messy. There's always things to arrange. Someone's gone. We need to handle all of their stuff, whatever it was, figure out what it is, administer it, distribute it, do whatever they're supposed to. but the more instructions you leave, the better. When we put together an estate plan package, a complete estate plan with the wills and trusts and power of attorneys and the explanation documents, it's complete enough so that it answers a lot of questions. And if you have your everything book put together and you just kind of build it over time and keep it up to date, not a big project, but just keep it up to date, knowing that someday somebody, probably one of your kids, is going to have to grab the everything book and go through it and say, okay, where did dad decide he's going to be buried? What has he made arrangements for that? Has he paid for headstones? And I've seen many times where somebody, the person gets buried or whatever, and then the kids find out later, they go, oh no, dad already prepaid for a funeral plot, but he didn't discuss that with his kids. That goes in your everything book. So organize, and everything's a little bit better so that you don't leave as big of a mess as you're going to leave anyway. I just think the more organized you can be, the better. It just makes everybody feel a little bit lighter when the time comes. You're listening to The Word on Wealth. Thanks for being along. Tomorrow we've got Shane Sletter, who's our reverse mortgage specialist. Listen up. He's got some great ideas we're going to talk about right here on The Word on Wealth. And remember, go to the MedicareAnswerGuy.com. And you can also get an appointment with me, 855-500-TRUST. Talk to you tomorrow.
Tell a friend about The Word on Wealth, featured since 1995, with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving.
Thank you, Gary.
President of the
All right, thank you.
Society of Tax Consultants.